Hi, welcome back to Data Movers, the digital future. I'm Max Reynolds, CEO and founder of Subsea Cloud.
Hey everyone, I'm Candace Sipos with JSA. Wherever you are in the world, we're so glad that you're joining us today. We have to continue our new tradition, which is that I ask Maxie to say what is one interesting thing that you've read recently, since you're such an avid reader.
The pressure, though. So the most recent book that I've read was Ship War. I'm rereading that, and I think it's really important, although not critical to today's discussion. But I learned a stat recently that is it's both mind-blowing and highly relevant. So it's that there's a higher unemployment rate among younger veterans, and particularly those who served post 9/11, that is a persistent issue, and it obviously requires targeted strategies to address. But I thought that was very interesting because they're young enough to be very relevant to today's industry, but we're seeing lower rates of them come into all industries. And so I thought that was sort of interesting and a little bit sad, I guess.
Yeah, that is. I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
What about you? Do you have any, no one reads as many books as I do because I'm a nerd, but do you have podcasts, movies, TV, anything like that at all?
Yeah, can confirm I do not read as much as you. That is accurate. But I do take in a lot of media, for better or for worse. I went on a road trip and listened to this newer podcast called The Good Whale. You can find it through New York Times, but it's put on by the people that did Serial, like the mega podcast Serial that was a huge hit a few years ago. And it's all about Kiko, the whale from the Free Willy movies, and the massive multi-million-dollar effort to rehab and release him back into the wild. So definitely highly recommend. It's really good.
No, but is it sad?
It is. It is sad. I don't want to give it away too much, but it's always hard. To be fair, this actual story took place 20 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that. So it's very much not happening in real time. But I, as an avid lover of Free Willy, had no idea that anything that happened with the actual whale in real life. So it's sad, but it's also really interesting.
I can't watch it.
Let me know. Let me know if you do. Okay, so anyway, we'll dive right in to this really another fascinating episode. I think maybe I'm biased, but we are bringing together leaders on Data Movers 2.0 or Data Movers: The Digital Future to tackle a different topic related to closing the talent gap in our industry. So today's topic is a really critical one: recruiting, retaining veterans, and we love stats. So we're just going to read off a few stats for you about this topic. So SHRM reports that veterans are 15.6% more likely to be underemployed. And in the US, veterans make up about 7% of our civilian, non-institutionalized adult population. So when you put those two truths together, you can see how veterans are an untapped or at least underutilized talent pool for an industry that is really struggling with talent shortages.
Yeah, underutilized is the key word, I guess. And the stats I have are veterans are a very educated talent pool. And I think it's 1 in 3 veterans have a bachelor's degree or higher. And I think that's according to the US Chamber of Commerce. And veterans are also a very diverse talent pool, with about 1/3 of active duty military identifying as a racial minority, and 80% of recruits coming from working class backgrounds, which is really impressive. And then in 2023, McKinsey wrote that the economic opportunity of unleashing the value of veterans' work experience through skilled-based hiring could reach almost 15 billion over a 10-year period, which is wild.
That's a ton. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So on that note, we're going to introduce three folks from the military community here that are actively working toward this very topic, recruiting more veterans into our industry. So first of all, we're going to introduce them one by one. We're going to start with Allison Marlow. She is U.S. Chair, Armed Forces for iMasons and International Account Executive for Schneider Electric. iMasons partners with Salute Mission Critical, who we have the founder and CEO of on the podcast as well here shortly, to connect the members of the armed forces community with digital infrastructure companies seeking to hire outstanding talent. So welcome, Allison. And by way of introduction, I'm going to ask you one quick question. So what brought you into the digital infrastructure industry? And also, could you give us your military background?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. I kind of fell into the digital infrastructure industry, as I think that a lot of people have, just through networking and different positions, and then really fell in love with it due to just the complex global growth and the challenges that exist within that. It just has proven to be such an exciting industry to be a part of. My military background is I'm actually a military spouse. My husband was in the Army for 26 years.
Incredible. Thank you. And one other question, what one word comes to mind when you think about this topic of recruiting veterans?
It's critical. It's critical for our industry, critical for the veteran. You did such a great job of outlining why and how this population is underutilized. And, I think that iMasons put out a report that by 2025, there will be 300,000 open positions. And this is such a population that fits in so well. Sorry, that was a lot more than one word.
But you got your point. Critical, we heard that, I think, on our last episode as well, like critical infrastructure, just everything about it is critical. And I think you're absolutely right in the way you've rounded that up. Next up, we have Kevin Kennedy, President and CEO of Warriors for Wireless, which is like such a brilliant name. It's a charitable organization helping veterans find financially stable careers in the 5G wireless workforce. So welcome, Kevin. And with that, what brought you to the digital infrastructure industry? And also give us your military title or background.
Well, it's a pleasure to join you. Thank you very much for having me. I'll kind of answer those in reverse order. Just that I spent 36 years in military uniform, 32 years in the Air Force. Most of that time was flying, but I was a pilot, flew a couple different airplanes. But the last 10, 15 years of my career was really spent working a lot of things that were really related to telecommunications. And when I got out of the military, getting into this organization, which is a charitable organization, my background was well suited for getting into what Warriors for Wireless does as a charitable organization. So what kind of came to me, they asked if I would consider taking on this charitable organization. That's how I got started with it.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thanks for your service. And what one word comes to mind when you think about recruiting veterans?
Well, I'll take a few more words than just one, but it's really essential to be able to do it. And it is a critical infrastructure. Telecommunications is absolutely essential to the digital age. It's not just nice to have, it's critical for businesses. It's changed the way that businesses work and the way that we work. And so for veterans to get into it, it's a great opportunity for them, just like we say in the title. It's a great fiscally stable, financially stable, good opportunity for them to grow. And that's why we focus on it.
All right.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. And last but not least, we've got none other than Lee Kirby, co-founder and chairman of Salute Mission Critical, a provider of integrated lifecycle data center services. Lee also is co-founder, executive sponsor, and global chair for the Armed Forces Group within iMasons. Thank you for joining us today, Lee. And same question for you. So what brought you into the digital infrastructure industry? And if you could give us a briefer on your military background.
Thanks for having me. like a lot of people in this industry, I just kind of stumbled into it. I enlisted in the Army in 1976 and ended up getting retiring in 2012 as a colonel, and had a great military career and found a great career in digital infrastructure. And the thing that I like about the industry is, like the military, it is critical, and you find that the skills that you pick up in the military are very at home here, and you excel if you bring those same skill sets and characteristics that you learned in the military about problem solving and thinking critically and how to get to the end solution. And I think you find that with all veterans in our industry, and that's why I think this industry is great for veterans.
Yeah, super well said. Thank you. And I know this is basically impossible, but can you think of one word that comes to mind when you think about recruiting veterans?
It may not be one word, it's hyphenated, multidisciplinary. Because if you think about the military, there's so many skills that are in the military, but you think about our industry, there's so many skills too. And they may not walk across one by one, but it's such a rich skill set from the military skill sets that can come across. And we've got mechanical and electrical engineers, we've got water purification needs, we've got back office needs, truck drivers, everything in the digital infrastructure. There's a role for a person that was in the military to come across and work in our industry.
Yeah, I think that's important. I don't know if everyone recognizes that. I don't know how well known that is, because it seems obvious as soon as you've said it. And at the same time, I don't know that I've really thought about that before. Candace, did you?
Yeah.
As he said it, you're like, well, obviously.
Right. Like I knew that already.
But yeah. All right. So based on like those answers in this group, are we ready for a little group discussion?
So,
Okay.
I throw that because I'm not the one who has to have the
Yes, I have to say nothing smart here, so this should go well. So okay, let's start with like a two-part question, and I'll ask the first part, wait for your answer, and then I'll go to the second. And Allison, I'll start with you. So let's go with, why do you think that the digital infrastructure industry would benefit from more veterans?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question. And again, you outlined the tie-in with the veterans and the industry so well. I think that we need so much talent to continue with the growth of the industry with AI, and the veteran community and the spouse community are people that have skills now. We need to focus on other programs for high school students and for other population, but this is a group of people that are very highly skilled that can transition very quickly into the digital infrastructure industry. And that's why I think it's such a great focus population for us.
Okay, so on that, what then is the like top, one of your top three, but what is the top transferable skill then from military to digital infrastructure, in your opinion?
I think that it can be kind of summed up in a mission critical mindset, in working together to get the job done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that.
And then we'll just ask the same question, I think, to Lee, Kevin, whoever wants to jump in there, about why you think the industry would benefit from more veterans.
I think one of the most valuable skills that veterans bring to the table that often gets overlooked is the ability to learn and adapt at speed. When you enlist in the military in 12 weeks, you become an entirely different person. You learn to learn and you learn to adapt and do it quickly. And our industry relies on that. The technology is changing at such a fast pace. And if you come in and you learn what you need to do the job today, and you don't keep learning, you're going to be irrelevant in a year. And that kind of mindset, that learning how to learn quickly, is what you learn in the military. And it's what's so valuable in our industry.
Yeah.
I'll just add to that, and I'll just say that if you think about the kind of person you were when you graduated from high school, that's about 100,000 of those go into the military every year. Yeah. But they go to that 12-week program that Lee just mentioned. It's called basic training. And the first thing they do, the first thing that happened to me, you get your hair all cut off, you put on all the same clothes, and the whole purpose is get over it. It's not you anymore, it's the team. And from the first moment, from the first afternoon, it's an emphasis upon teamwork. And it's an emphasis upon following procedures and following orders. And why? Not just so that I can beat you up or discipline you or anything like that. It's because if I go to war, you have to do this the right way. We have to work as a team. We have to have each other's back. And first term enlisted are the people that see the bulk of the wartime fighting. And I could give you a lot of statistics on that. But if you take your average high school graduate, they're going to get probably $100,000 to $200,000 worth of investment put into them, into training them into how to work as a team and how to learn a basic skill. And then they're going to spend 3 or 4 years in their first term of enlistment in the military. Now, why wouldn't you want somebody that has got 3 to 4 years of experience in critical things about teamwork, about working together, about getting along, about having a bigger picture, about following orders, those sorts of things? What a great background. And that's your average veteran that's looking for a job when they get out of the military. They're taking their uniform off and they're trying to put on civilian clothes. Last time they looked for a job, they were in high school, but they're totally different people 4 years after after wearing the uniform.
Yeah, that's so well said. And I was just thinking, you were saying teamwork, and when you go to industry conferences, like Maxie and I are always running about, PTC and ITW and DCD and all these conferences, so much talk about collaboration in the industry, and it's in the titles of so many of these speaking sessions. And really, another word for that is teamwork. And so there are few industries right now that teamwork or collaboration is more important in, because digital infrastructure is so critical, and we're moving at such a rapid pace, especially with AI. So that's a really good point. So Kevin, I'll go to you for this next one. So this is another two-parter. So what are the top challenges in your opinion when it comes to recruiting veterans in the industry, and do you think the industry is doing a good enough job at that?
So at Warriors for Wireless, as a charitable organization, we really try to coach vets. We're not really trying to recruit them. I use different words, just saying I'm not trying to talk them into it. I'm just trying to tell them about the goodness of what they could get into. And why that's an important opening statement is just that when I talk to a vet, most people think 5G is buying a new phone. Yeah. And the first thing I have to do is explain to them, look at the top of the phone. How do you think those bars of connectivity get there? How does that Wi-Fi symbol get there? And then we have conversations about whether they want to impersonate Spider-Man as a tower technician, or whether they want to spread fiber cable, or whether they want to be going indoors and setting up Wi-Fi system, the different types of things. And boy, it's just eye-opening to them. I can just see their minds expanding. And we reach out to somewhere between 90,000 and 100,000 veterans every year. We reach out to that many just to tell them that telecom is something you ought to think about. And of that, we have a pretty good response rate. We talk to 25,000 vets. And that's the kind of conversation that we have with them. So the hardest thing is to get them to think about the infrastructure that makes their wireless network work. It seems so simple and so seamless that they haven't even thought about it. And then when we begin to talk to them, well, I have never been trained in that. I'm not a comm guy from the military. Well, you don't have to be. Yeah. It goes back to the first question. You understand mission. You understand how to follow orders. You understand procedures. You can learn. You want to learn. These are all really good talents that you bring to the workforce. And once we've had those conversations with them, then what we do is we then just introduce them to companies that are looking for them. We're on about 600 websites every day, just looking at where jobs are at. And then we reach out to veterans in those areas, and then we're just connecting the dots. We're basically like date makers, I guess, setting people up on dates to get them going, to talking to each other and try and get vets into jobs.
Absolutely. Great. Lee, Allison, anything on that question about the top challenges when it comes to recruiting veterans in the industry?
Same thing, raising awareness in the military, getting out to the TAP sites and the different associations, both with infrastructure masons and salute. And we're talking similar thing, just trying to make them aware of us. You're trying to get their attention. Many times when a veteran is getting off of active duty, they're just thinking of getting home, and it's usually at the last minute, and you're trying to get their attention. And we use the example with the infantrymen that are getting off, and they think, okay, I'm going to go down the route of being a security or getting a cop. Well, an infantryman is a data center technician in waiting, because they took care of their equipment, their weapon systems, their communication gear, which are very complex equipment systems, and they did it with a checklist called PMCS. Data center technicians use a checklist to take care of their equipment. The companies that hire them just need to show them new equipment and how to do that, and they can be trained and get a job. So we're trying to make people aware in the military that you've got the basics that you need to get a job in the data center industry, the digital infrastructure industry. You just need to be aware and just trying to get their mindset and just trying to get their attention when all they're thinking about is getting home. So Allison and I work with Infrastructure Masons to try to get out to all these TAP sites and through the different associations to make awareness and just give them a chance to know what's out there.
I just like to add on, it's absolutely awareness. It's reach on the platforms at the TAP sites where they are. I think that we have in the industry is the ability for our hiring managers. I don't know that we're doing that good of a job of seeing and understanding, translating that value. Masons, we have just launched this job matching portal, which allows the military background. It's an expert at understanding what that means in skills that are relevant for the industry, and then showing them those jobs that match their skills. So we are working to help into understandable skills that any one of their hiring managers can understand and can act on.
Yeah, interesting. Lee, can I go back to something you said? So you were talking about sort of raising awareness from us looking at them, looking at vets, raising awareness, right? And essentially, I think the message was vets are unaware of us and you are trying to solve for that. So I kind of want to flip the question a little bit. What do you think people tend to overlook when it comes to recruiting and training veterans in our industry? So not about if they know about us, let's say we've passed that hurdle. What is it that we are overlooking through the lens of vets?
I think a lot of times people in our industry are always looking for the easy button. They don't want to invest in the training processes and the orientation and the transition because it does take effort. Even if you hire somebody that's coming from the military with all of the technical training that they have, you have to orient them because every data center is different no matter what site you go to. Every plant is different. Even if you go to a 5G site, those sites will be different. And so any job program you have needs to have a good transition and training program. So you depend based on those people that you're hiring. Are they coming in with the already prerequisite skills you need, or are they coming in with some sort of remedial training requirement? If you can define that based on your onboarding requirements and get the people coming into that training program that can be quickly assimilated into the process and trained, and have a good workforce development program that does not just the initial training, but the ongoing training for career development throughout their career, I think you have a successful program. But it takes an investment, and some companies try to do the shortcut and just hire and get them into the position, let them figure it out, and that's costly for everybody.
So then, can I sum it up like this? There's basically an awareness issue on both sides. So there is an awareness issue in the fact that people inside our industry don't understand how transferable military skills are to what we do. And there's awareness issue in terms of we're not a very conspicuous industry. We're very staid. We're not well known. And it's probably because we function so well that people don't know about us. So the vets don't know about us. So we've now got these two issues that, and it's actually turns into an exponential problem, so to speak. Is that fair?
I think that's a fair assessment because we're an industry within a sector. People think about technology and we're within technology.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, can I add, I'll say it a different way, a two-sided coin, but I'll hit a couple different points on that. You guys brought it up earlier. It's statistically proven that only about 1% of American population serves in the military. 99% does not. And so 99% really doesn't know what that 1% is doing while they're in the military. So right away, it creates a blind side, both for the military person trying to get into that telecom industry you just described, and for the telecom supervisor that doesn't understand what this kid just went through. And so I'm going to describe it very quickly, but I will say that the average vet that I've talked to probably came from a broken home, and he went from one parent to 60 sets of parents telling them what to do. As they get in the military, they got all these people telling them what to do. And so I need to tell the vet that when you get out, you need to demonstrate your own initiative. You need to be taking action. Don't just wait for orders. And for the supervisor that gets this kid, they sometimes think, why doesn't this kid have any initiative? No, he's ready to go do it. He's just used to getting a lot of orders and direction.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's the disconnect that I see often is I've got a lot of vets that got a lot of capability and they're ready to do it. They're ready to go, but they're just not used to this new environment.
Yeah.
A civilian world environment where there's a lot more latitude for them to be showing initiative than they had when they were in the military.
I think you're probably right, Candace.
Oh, sorry. I'm just thinking about this through the lens of DEI, and we talk a lot about the part of the importance of getting more diversity into the workforce and definitely into the leadership is because, you get somebody in, like a woman, for instance, and she's more likely to bring in other women. And I think the same thing can be said with veterans, right? Like you start to get more veterans into the industry, and then that in turn brings in more and more veterans because like you said, and I find that stat so interesting. I had no idea only 1% serve in the military, but like you said, there is such a disconnect with folks who haven't served and understanding, how it can be applicable.
So that's like
I'd
1%.
like to add one thing.
No, go ahead.
Oh, just on things that I think that I think that we're also looking the military spouse. It's becoming more critical for those spouses to have really meaningful employment to ensure the success of that military family. And these are very adaptable, often very well educated, very passionate people that need more and more, just due to the cost of living, need to have a meaningful career. And if we can focus on that population, in addition to the transitioning military, those are people that can help raise awareness of the military and help them understand the career opportunities for them once they transition out. And it is a population that I believe that we're overlooking.
Couldn't agree more with Allison. We found at Salute that was a hidden resource pool that I should have thought of with all the deployments I had. My wife was doing everything she could to keep things together. And you look at the average military spouse and they reinvent themselves every 3 years as their spouse gets redeployed or PCS'd and such. And so you look at the resume and it looks like a job bouncer, but what it is, it's a learner and it's an adapter that can take on any job that you throw in front of them. And at Salute, we found that they're great employees that you can hire and they'll take on any challenge and excel at it. So that's another resource pool. So if you've got 200,000 active duty coming off every year, you've got 175,000 military spouses coming off, you've almost doubled the size of your resource pool for available jobs.
Excellent point. Yeah. Very interesting.
So we have our lightning round next,
Yeah.
and this is my favorite part, actually. So I know this is very, very difficult, but we ask for 15 seconds or less answers to 4 different questions, and we're just going to go around the horn. So I'll actually start with you, Allison. So what is your top piece of career advice for high schoolers or college students?
I would say to just jump in, learn skills, be passionate. Don't think too much about the end game, but just jump in, be passionate, learn skills, develop. Many of us have fallen into this industry by accident, and you'll just learn along the way.
I love that. Yeah, it was pretty good 15-second clip too. Well done. Thank you. And then Kevin, how about you?
Well, as I said, 36 years in uniform, I tell them, think about joining the military. It teaches you a lot about teamwork. It teaches you a lot about discipline and drive and experience that's bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Perfect. Lee?
Prepare broadly with your education, but focus on what the next thing is you want to do and become the master of that. A lot of people think that they know what they want to do now, but they're going to change a lot in their career.
Love it. Thank you. Okay, question 2. So we'll go back to Allison. What personality trait do you look for most in candidates?
Passion and curiosity. I think that those are things that can't be taught, but if you have those, you can learn anything.
Yeah. Perfect. Over to you, Kevin.
I'll go with D's. Discipline, dedication, drive.
I don't know why I doubted that we would be able to do this. Is so on point with the 15-second. It doesn't always work out this way. Thank you. Lee, what would you say to that?
Critical thinking and a propensity to action.
Ooh, I like it.
Ooh, very good. Okay, Allison, if you could instantly master a new business skill, what would it be?
Really maintaining relationships. This industry is so big, but it's so small, and people that you work on projects end up at different companies. And if I could be a little better at maintaining those connections, I think we could all help each other grow so much.
Yeah, it's tough when everybody's so busy, right? Because but like you said, it is so critical, especially in such a fast-paced industry. So ironically, it's what makes it so important that also makes it so difficult. Kevin, what would you say?
So this is very big picture, but we live in the digital age that has not only changed the way that we work, but the way that we think. And I have, in all the studying that I've done, I think one of the hardest challenges people have in the digital age is being present in the moment. Yeah, and that you could go a lot further than that, but it gets into listening to what a person's trying to tell you, hearing what they're saying, capturing it. Being present in the moment's a big challenge in the digital age.
Yeah, not just listening to respond.
Yeah,
absolutely. Multitasking, we're always multitasking, and we don't do it well. It's proven that we don't do it well.
Yeah,
right. And the people who think they do it the best, I think, often
do it the worst. Yeah. Yes.
How about you, Lee? What would be your new business skill that you would master?
I would like multilingual capability. We're a global industry and we touch so many countries and cultures. I would love to be able to communicate easily. Being American, I get lazy because so many people default to English, but I would love to be able to communicate across borders easily.
That's my answer, by the way. So
Is it?
Yeah, I wish I was one of those people who could like absorb language.
Do you only speak English?
I do.
Yeah.
Well, you got AI, you got translators. It's coming.
All right, last lightning round question. So, Allison, in 1 to 2 words, how would you describe the digital infrastructure industry?
I would describe it as strategic, innovative, and fun. It's such a really exciting place to be and so fast moving.
Perfect. How about you, Kevin?
I'm going to violate the 2 words, but I said just look at the headlines today with the Chinese espionage that's going on. The issue of this is critical infrastructure, and it's critical even to national security. It's critical for us to work on to be able to get things done, but it's also a huge problem from a security perspective. And from a warfighting perspective, that's a big deal. When something that is so essential to the day-to-day operations is also so vulnerable, that is a big deal. And that's our infrastructure.
Absolutely.
That's our industry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, we're rounding it out with you. Last answer, Lee.
Building tomorrow. I think the digital economy relies on the digital infrastructure, and that's what makes it exciting to me. And I think that's what will attract veterans, because you join the military for a purpose and you join the digital infrastructure, you can have that same feeling of purpose, because this my grandchildren will be using, and that excites me.
Yeah. Amazing.
Can't think of a better way to end. Thank
Totally.
you. Yes, that's a really well said. So thank you to all 3 of you for joining us. This was a really fascinating conversation. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And thank you to everyone tuning in, whether it's audio only on our podcast or you're checking us out on YouTube. We're so glad that you're here. And if you enjoyed the program today, be sure to check out jsa.net/JSATV and our YouTube channel, Jamie Scotto TV. We will see you there. And you can also find Maxie and myself on LinkedIn.